Welcome back to the Social Seller Podcast with Conor Paulsen, where we interview the world's highest quality communicators, professionals, business owners, creatives, and everything in between. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you're a high quality communicator, there's a good chance you're living a lot happier life, but you're also bringing those opportunities into your life almost like a magnet. My guarantee is that on this show, we only interview people that I, one, look up to, and two, that I know are going to continue to kill the game for years to come, and I want to make sure they're on your radar. But what I've learned is by asking the best questions, we get the best responses, and that's what the highest quality communicators, our social sellers, are all about. Let's hop inside to the Social Seller Podcast. Welcome, brother. I am so excited. As you can tell, we are in a studio for the first episode. We are pumped. This happened last minute. Opportunities are coming, and you are an opportunity that we've been working on for a while to bring this to life. Jayson Yoss, not only a good friend, a very successful business owner, having companies that have now spanned and grown to multiple states and a growing team, an awesome culture. You have a background as a Marine. I know you grew up, born and raised in Orange County, went to school at ASU.
Please, how dare you?
Oh, University of Arizona. I forget that
it's all good.
I've never spent time in the state.
It's all good though. Yes.
You're right though, because that's the same.
I didn't go to ASU. I went to the Harvard of the Southwest, U of A.
I did not know that. That's what people call the Harvard of the Southwest. It makes sense. You're a smart guy. And then went on to start GoldenWest Management. And you've spent at least the last decade doing that, or almost a decade, correct?
Correct. I started the company in 2004, a little interlude, Iraq, Afghanistan, in the Marine Corps. And then back in 2012, picked it up, and we've been running strong since then.
I love it. And I've been so excited to have Jayson on because I learned so much. I consider you a great friend. We
Absolutely.
like to have fun.
Yeah.
We like to care about our teams and grow and help people around us. And you've introduced me to circles and people that I'm thankful for. And I'm just, again, learning. So I know today, selfishly, I'm going to learn. And I have no doubt that everyone listening in is going to get some value too. So just to start off, I know getting to briefly meet your parents, I quickly realized, seeing how you guys interact and the times we've been together, how much you value them. And it's more than I realized most of my friends, even friends that are really close with their families, right? But the relationship you have, I have a good feeling has led to your success in life and why you're happy. Right. What was your environment like growing up? Did you lean towards one of your parents? And can you kind of describe what was different about your childhood or upbringing?
Right. So, my parents are both from New York, and so they're born and raised out there. They brought me out here to Huntington Beach, California, when I was about a year or two old. So unfortunately, they did split up early and both remarried. And, for the most part, I grew up with my mom and my stepdad, and it was like living with the Cleavers. Very hokey. They're great people. I love them very much. It was an easy kind of childhood, I would say. They were very good to me and my brother. So, and my mom is, she is a wonderful role model, not just to me, but for, a lot of women around. So we could talk about her background, but she's been somebody that I've looked to, trying to be an entrepreneur, watching someone who's done it and paved that pathway before, obviously. So that's kind of the basics, Parents, Newport Beach, Orange County, California. I went to the University of Arizona. During that time, I learned about real estate. I interned for some top producers, and that got my head focused on property management. I found that for some reason, what costs you a bathroom in Newport Beach, you can get a whole house in Arizona, and you can get students to rent it for way more than it's worth. So that started the kind of property management focus, real estate focus. And then after I graduated, and I worked for a top producer for a little while, I opened up my own firm, and I focus on just residential property management. And then the war was going on. So about 2005, I stepped out. I did the Marine Corps thing. And I joined the Marine Corps, first enlisted, put my toe in the water as a enlisted infantry Marine, did the reserves, and then I thought, hey, I really want to do this full time. So in 2007, I switched over to become an officer. Infantry officer. I did the 2 tours, Iraq and Afghanistan.
Thank you, man.
I was privileged to lead some great men. And when I got finished with that, I taught at the School of Infantry, and I started to get back into real estate. So by the time I got out of the Marine Corps right before 2012, I was really focused right back on residential property management. And from that day forward, I've been growing the business, GoldenWest Management, and we're lucky enough now to have 3 offices, one in Las Vegas, one in Phoenix, and here in San Diego. And I couldn't be happier with that.
I love it, man. I love it. And we talk about the highlights, and we're going to talk about the parents again, because your mom's success is not common, and your dad had success too, right?
Absolutely.
But just from the conversations we've had too, and to be in that type of environment. And before we dive into that,
sure,
I want to talk about some of the adversity, because I know you're a happy guy. You're happier than the majority of people I know, and I think most friends and people that know you would agree. You're a fun guy. People enjoy being around you. Now, you've also experienced things. You've done 2 tours. You've led people into combat where you've been shot at. And I'm guessing you've shot at others, right? That's wild. That's something none of us can say, right? Or maybe you can, Oscar. You have a wild upbringing. Now, but like to see that's not a way of life for most people, to come back and then to still be able to like blend in and go back to success. So what was a low point for you? Let's humanize you for a sec.
I appreciate that. I got to say, like, I don't have any great stories of, being homeless or sleeping on someone's couch or anything like that. What I do have is I came from a background that set me up to take a passion and is hard work and you'll be successful. That was the mantra, right? Obviously with the Marine Corps, it was a different thing. Right. But there's a lot of young men and women who have been in the service in the last 20 years who have faced that kind of adversity. Being overseas is tough for everybody. I get it. And you see and do things that you might not see and do if you were doing an MBA or working at a hedge fund right out of college. So yeah, it was different. But the biggest adversity was coming back home and going like, okay, well, working at a desk job isn't as motivating as getting you and 20 or 30 of your best friends to go kick down doors or patrol endlessly for 8 to 12 hours a day. So finding that motivation to get something going that's going to put money in your pocket, feed your family, that's important. And so I had to restart and reassess, what are my skills? What can I do well? I have a degree in psychology, which means I could basically be a high school guidance counselor, maybe, no offense to them, but I don't know anything about business. I am a knuckle dragger. I color with crayons. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, for sure. So what I had to do was take the skills that I did learn and try to apply them into a new business. And that was, I knew people well. I knew that I could work with people. I knew I could forge relationships. And that has been the key to success. Being able to surround yourself with people who are successful, who can help point you in the right direction. Learning from your mistakes. I mean, I made so many, but learning from them and being able to push forward, that has been great. I think lastly, back to the degree, I have a degree in psychology. I didn't know anything about business. All right. So I didn't know about spreadsheets and financials and things that actually make a successful business, because anybody can open their own shingle, but having it turn a profit, okay, that's a big deal. And that's what I had to learn. And again, along the way, that came from trial and error and surrounding myself with people who are like, hey, if you're bringing in less money than you're paying out, that is not good. And that's not sustainable. So that's the point in a nutshell. But I'm so thankful for everybody I've met and everything I've learned along the way, because that's got me to this point now. And it's not like I'm dead. I mean, I still got a long way to go. And I hope that I can influence other people, especially young Marines, not just Marine officers, but other Marines getting out to say like, hey, what can you do? What skills do you have to be able to be successful?
Yeah, no. And I love that. How young are you, man? You're 36.
Oh, whoa. My age now. I was born in the 70s. We'll just leave it at that.
All right. So 36. Yeah. Now, you are not only influential.
26.
26. No, I do that because I like to have context for that, because I really don't know. And your personality, your energy, you vibrate at like 23, and I think you're gonna live to like 140 because of that. And you smile enough. So. Now, could we unpack quick what you had said, because you skimmed over it. You realized that you weren't that good at everything.
Right.
You're good at a few things, and they were all tied to emotional intelligence, right? And social skills. And we can talk about IQ. And I used to think everything about being smart and successful in life growing up was all solely based on IQ.
Right.
And I didn't perform well on tests and quizzes. So I started to think, I'm dumb. Right? Then in college, I learned about EQ, and I started fully leveraging it. Freshman year, learned about Grant Cardone. You don't have to watch a ton of Grant Cardone content, especially back in the day, to realize this guy's not the smartest guy, right? But this guy's very successful. And it was just this reality kind of wake up. What were those 3 for you again? And how do you think you How did you understand that those were strengths for you? Was it other people telling you you were good at them, or was it a job that you're like, damn, I seem to do this pretty well, or I like it?
No, I think first and foremost, we all are able to take that kind of self-reflection and go, okay, what am I good at? And you're going to start from there. And then from that, you have to flip that switch and go, what am I not good at? What do I need help with? And you have two options on when you're approaching something like that. An obstacle like that, you're either going to get someone who's good at it to help you. Okay, that could be an employee, that could be a mentor, whatever. Or you yourself are going to do the research, do the training, do the hard work to be good at that. So if you're not good at, Excel spreadsheets, you could practice them a lot. You could read a tutorial and eventually you'll get better. Yeah. Or you can hire someone who is, hey, they're good at Excel spreadsheets. I'm good at sales. So, hey, what was one was two. And so those are the two ways you're going to approach an obstacle. And for me, what I noticed was, hey, sales skills was really good. But as I started to grow a business, I realized that number one, bringing in clients is great. But if they go out the back door because you're not able to service them or you're not able to properly run your business, the financial aspects of it, that's not good. So again, taking stock of what you have and then figuring out how are you going to plug in the holes for your weaknesses. And that's the best way I can look at it. However, when I was younger, I had a mentality that was, oh, I can do it all on my own. I'm a Marine. I can shoulder the burden. I can just work harder than anybody else and I'll be successful. And as I got older, I found like, hey, that is not always the right way. The frontal assault is not always the right way to attack a problem. So that would be my way of telling someone else, younger Jayson, like, hey, there's nothing wrong with getting some colleagues right out of the boat that can help you, some mentors right out of the boat. Too few of us, when we're younger, have mentors. And or we have them and we're not listening to them. That's the other part.
I love that. And to that young Jayson, telling yourself and knowing it, like mentors at whatever age, try to get them as young as possible, right? And the younger you are, I think it's a lot easier to get a mentor. It's a little bit more okay, I'll put it, that you can go like, hey, you want to be my mentor, right? It's like you're in college, you have to go away from it, but then you start playing the student card.
Right.
And then after that, now I only have the Midwest card and the San Diego card. But the Midwest works pretty well.
Well, okay, so if you graduated from college, you're in your first job, you're kind of running upstream, right? If you don't have the mentality of like, I'm here to learn, if the mentality is, well, I just only got paid $36K and I'm trying to make, $36 million tomorrow, like there's a bridge that you need to put in there. And I just thinking about my own self, it's like, how am I going to make $1 million? I'm using that as a random number, but how am I going to be successful? And I wasn't using that, hey, maybe I should get a mentor. I had, some role models, but getting an actual mentor, whether it's just somebody in your work, a senior person that you look up to, that you follow what they do, you ask them questions, or it's somebody as you get a little more sophisticated, like I have a coach, something along those lines, a little more formal. You have to be open to that process, and you have to want to do it, and then you got to seek out one. So,
yeah,
young Jayson might not have been looking for that. He might have been like, I'm ready to make some money, and then I'm going to go out tonight and see what's going on. That might have been the mentality, but is not always the mentality for success.
Spot on. Is it okay if I say a couple of things that are exciting? I hope I can remember all the points in order right off the bat. It's the difference. I used to make the mistake of thinking I was pursuing being rich. No. What I'm pursuing and what we're creating is accumulating wealth, right? That's sustainable. It's building the long term, and 80% of my efforts are going towards building that future. Right. So what the mistake was in college, because I did the exact same thing, right? You have to go through some of these filters and experiences in life, right. But what I wish I would have actually known is I want to invest in myself before anything else. Right. And I'm the best investment in my future. And I'm the most sustainable investment. So that could be education, right? Reading, documentaries, YouTube, right? Those are some of my first mentors. Right. Tony Robbins to Brendan, to I could name the list, right? But those were my mentors. And I just started to fall in love with how it made me feel, right? I didn't have a business idea yet, but I was hanging around entrepreneurs for 3 months at this point, right? Growing up in a small town, wasn't around these people yet. And I was like, damn, I need to be around them. But yeah, in doing that, it's so crazy because this is 8 years of doing this and just really having a curiosity for it and knowing damn, the books all say keep doing it. And like all the people I look up to seem to be doing it. Yeah. And it does make me feel good. Like I go to sleep, I sleep better at night knowing that I'm getting closer to my future, even though sometimes I'm like, damn, I'm living like a grandpa. Like it's so routine sometimes, right? And it wasn't until the last 6 months that I've started to feel like some of that compound. And I know you've experienced that before, and I'm sure in multiple different ways. I've experienced that for the first time. And it's taken 5+ years of doing it. And I'm also realizing it's why I feel confident reaching out to certain people. It's why we're able to attract larger clients than ever before. To just opportunities are coming, right? Last night, I haven't even told anyone this because it just happened. A big part of moving to San Diego for me 3.5 years ago was influenced by a guy that created the book and the documentary, The Secret. And he's a San Diego local. His name's John Assaraf. And I've looked up to him for that component, but also on the business side, he has created 4 separate billion-dollar companies in 4 separate industries. I don't know anyone in business that's done that. So it's not about the money. I know this guy's genuinely happy and he's giving this love back and he's operating on a different world. Yesterday, I had a coaching session, and this is the timeliness of this. Right. I had a coaching session, so we need to talk about that because we never talked about that on an episode where what type of coaching are you doing, frequency of meeting, and like how much are we dedicating towards it? Like I want to actually break that down. But yesterday was NLP coaching. That's something I pay personally out of pocket, right? And I'm glad you mentioned that because that was something I finally had to start doing, and it changed my life this year. And we go out, and we've tried to meet out of a professional scene. Like you and me like to get happy hour, talk business, figure out ways we can help each other. It's a casual way. Well, this was finally the opportunity to. So Tim and I go and we grab one. It's an awesome conversation. And we're about to go back. And we're both very like energetic kind of people. Again, he's trained in NLP. He's been doing it 2 or 3 decades now. And we both had this feeling. It was like, no, we should go over to this place, Story House. And it was this new spot, whatever. It was like, yeah, let's grab a drink there, whatever.
This is downtown San Diego?
Downtown San Diego, correct. Yeah, I love that you give me that. You call it the hood, right? You call it Connor's hood.
My favorite place.
Only person in the world that would. But and the crazy thing that happened and where this is all going is that guy I looked up to, that even 3.5 years ago, I was like, I'm going to move out there. I have no doubt I'm going to meet him. I don't know how. Somehow we're going to become friends. We're going to have dinner at his house sometime. We're going to have a lot of laughs. I don't know how.
Right.
But finally, I'm sitting there and we're just talking, getting ready to leave. And I see out of the left side of my eye, it's him walking up and he's walking in. Now, not only that, does he come to us, right? And I think there's something that the universe is doing, right? It's showing like, hey, I think you're aligned. You're doing things. Keep doing it. Right. You're incongruent. It's keep doing it. But not only did he come in, he sat right next to us. And I get excited, and rarely would I even consider myself fangirling, but I'm talking to my friend, and this is someone that is trained in NLP, reading body language, eye cues. The direction of your eyes are telling you where you're accessing parts of your brain. Are you thinking in the future or the past, right? So he's reading all these things, and we get out 30 minutes later, and I just told him, I was like, at the very least, I have to get a picture with them. And they're talking business deals. Like I hear them. I do not want to interrupt it. So anyway, I did quickly, and we were out, and it was just wild. It's such a good feeling.
So
I have no idea.
You got a photo with him?
Got a photo with them, yeah. And I wouldn't even do this like with a celebrity, but to me, this means so much. And I think people that really care about self-development and spirituality, and that have watched a lot of this content for some time, know about this guy. And I know the guys I look up to, they're all in this circle. So anyway, for me, it's looking back and reflecting now. I didn't know this in the moment, but it's like, hopefully that's kind of this sign from like all the work we do that sometimes it's like, damn, are we doing this efficiently? Now, point there, live congruently, and I realize the harder I work and the happier I am, the more just crazy opportunities like that are random, right? And then we go back to the apartment, and all of a sudden I look out the window, and John, no joke, the guy I just met, took a picture with, 25 minutes later is the keynote speaker at Petco Park, because Billie Jean rented out Petco Park for the event. So I'm watching him there, and I'm like, this is wild. And
this is because you live in a place that can see in Petco Park, and you were able to see the billboard, and you were able to see him up there giving a speech.
God, you're so good at visual descriptions. I need to improve. You're right.
I love that. No, but I mean, I like the entire aspect of what you're saying, because again, how often do you get to run into somebody that affects what you're doing in your daily life?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm saying, like, I have a list of top 50 I could probably list out. Most influential, probably I could go top 100, right? And this guy is in my top 2 or top 3. Right. And yeah, it's just crazy. And then meeting another one of those top 5 influential people less than a month ago, and like just seeing, I don't know, this excitement for the future that I haven't explained, but I've read about it in books. And so you've experienced this. Now let's dive into the coaching.
Okay.
What type of coaching? When did you start coaching, and what type of coach do you have today?
Absolutely. So unpacking coaching, first and foremost, I was always started with the mentality when I was younger, like, oh, I love to go see a coach to improve my baseball swing or whatever, you know. But then when I got into business, it's like, no, I know what I'm doing. But that was the wrong mentality. So a couple of years ago, I got into a group, a coaching group, and it's just basically being with other affiliate brokers that are in my industry.
Yep.
And my mentality before was like, what do I need to learn from them? And the reality was one of the greatest things I did. Because on the first day, the leader of this little group had asked, like, okay, who's doing this in their business? Who's doing that? And I remember they were raising their hands, and I wasn't raising my hand to any of that. And I was like, there's stuff I can learn from these people. And some of them are in our...
What were some of those things? Do you remember?
Well, right off the bat, a lot of them were about making money. Hey, I'm in the property management business. So one of them was like, are you incorporating this charge to your clients? And like everybody raised their hand. And I was like, I'm not incorporating that charge. And then there was another fee. And these are legitimate fees. And I wasn't doing it. And at that time when I sought out, a coaching group, a mentorship group, I was in the red, all right? I wasn't making money. I had a big company and we were in the red. Okay, I had a lot of people and we were doing a lot of good things, but the profit, that bottom line, what we're in business to do wasn't there. And so I had to go, all right? So I started with a group like that. Then I got an individual coach. And the individual coach, we meet once a month, okay? And it's actually a two-person team. 1 month is this my spiritual leader, kind of the one who talks to me about how I can make my business better from a strategic standpoint. But the other one is a numbers guy. Hey, Jason, let's look at the financials, because if you're the captain of the ship, you have to do a deep dive on your financials regularly. Okay, so what's the trends? What can we adjust? What can we change? And that's when I started to notice the expense numbers coming down, the gross revenue numbers going up, profit percentages changing. That's when I started making goals based on actual numbers. I started to become accountable for what my company did or failed to do, not on the daily basis of like so-and-so didn't call so-and-so back type of thing. That service wasn't to a level we want, but from a numbers game. And then again, my strategic coach was, do you have core values? Well, yeah, I do. What are they? Blank, right? Do you have a mission statement? Do you have a 1-year plan? Do you have a 3-year plan? If money was no option, what do you need to do to make you happy? It sounds like psychology, and the truth is, it is, except in a business format. And, that was a game changer for me. That was a game changer because I knew my business at that time backwards and forwards, but I knew technical tactics and procedures. I didn't know strategy.
Yeah.
And that's what a coach did. And that's what a mentorship group also did. And then when I got into a group of peers, people who are in my industry, that's when I learned, like, hey, what's so-and-so doing? And when I even opened up even more to get even farther, I would start to say, hey, colleague, this is what I'm doing for success. And you know what? Another person would say, hey, Jason, why don't you try this? And then we would have these little 30-minute, hour like Zoom meetings together, and we talk about what's working, what's not. And all of a sudden, not only did I find better ways to do things, but I felt like success didn't depend on my brain. It depended on my ability to take what was around me, what worked, what didn't work, and put it into my company so that we could continue on and we can hit goals that I had set out on a financial aspect. And without that, I might still be in the red. I might have not made it through, like the COVID epidemic or that. I might not have had a business at the end of that. So I'm very thankful for that. Very thankful.
I love it. And you've dealt with enough adversity in your life, right? That I'm realizing you start to not even be able to notice when it happens, and you start to forget about it pretty easily, right? Like to have a growing company, and I think after you get to, I don't know, I'm just throwing out a number, but maybe it's like 4 or 5 years, and hopefully you've beaten the majority of the statistics that are against you in the first 4 or 5 years, that hopefully you find a little stability and you start to see a little consistency where now we're realizing how important it is to look at the numbers in a whole nother way.
You talked about your mentor. He's established $4 billion companies in different industries. And let's talk about that for a second. To start one company and be successful is quite a feat. So for me, for example, up until recently, it was like, how am I going to make this company work? And now it's like, okay, now I'm starting to look at, all right, I'm getting ready for company 2. Now it happens to be in my same industry. Okay, what happens when this success, this habit of success, doing the right things on a regular basis, not only becomes infectious to my team, but to the point where I can step out of my industry. I can do something that I'm not familiar with, and I can apply similar successful practices, and I can be successful there. And even more important, what if I'm not the one driving the ship? What if I'm just helping lay the groundwork so someone else drives the ship? Not only are they successful, not only does my bank account get money, which I can support my family and things like that, but I get time.
Yeah.
I get more time to do other things that we're not going to be on this earth for that long.
Yeah.
I'm not always going to get philosophical, but we're not going to be here forever. So if you don't have time to be with your family, to do the things that you want to do, to give back, then you're not 100% there yet.
Amen.
Right.
And something to look forward to, I think, that I didn't realize early in business is that as you're putting all this work in and building networks and getting mentors and working with clients and building these relationships and going to events, over time, if you can create one successful company, it becomes a hell of a lot easier to create more, right? Or like why all those statistics,
I'm not sure yet.
That's my theory.
Right.
Like if you were, and I'm curious actually, I want, what would your theory be right now from just a high level if you wanted to in 3 years you were going to have GoldenWest, it was going to be $1 billion company?
If I was going to
what would that like high level strategy, where does your mind immediately go? Like what would that potentially look like? Because then I'm curious.
Right.
I've never asked this one.
So first and foremost, for us to be a $1 billion company, and I definitely think that is something that we could do.
Yeah.
I have to get better at empowering the team I lead to get better at what they do. Okay, I have to put the tools in place to make sure they're better. And that's a lot of stuff that's some personal unpacking for me. Like I have weaknesses that I have to work on regularly. And I'm sure that every one of your guests and every one of these people who open their bank account and see lots of zeros or have lots of love, they work on their weaknesses. So that's number one. The better I can get at getting my team to be better, not just me, but my team, the better we're going to be. And then number two, the ability to take a little bit of risk. All right, the ability to get ourselves in a situation where the team not only believes we can start to make that energy, feed off from other people. Hey, our clients, they want to be part of that ship. When you are at a party and it's a good one, the energy's there. It's the same thing. If our clients know that there's energy there, this is going to be going in the right direction, that just builds the energy for other clients. We can grow heavily. And it's not just clients. The last part is on the team. More employees want to be there because it's less of a job and more of a, hey, yeah, I got to work somewhere. I love to work here. I love what I'm doing. I love the service I'm providing for someone else. When it becomes more than just a job, it's infectious. And that's when your company as a vehicle can go stratospheric. That's when you hit those unicorn type numbers. Right? That's my thought based on the question of like, if GoldenWest was going to go to $1 billion, what are the 3 or 4 things we have to do? That's it.
Amen.
Because property management is property management. I got to rent
You
properties,
mentioned,
right? That,
No, you mentioned great points, and I love just the direction you take, because I'm thinking more in terms of like strategically. You think the values and the assets that need to be there, and you're exactly right. I guess before we move on, do you see it if it was to happen in 3 years? And I have no doubt you guys are on that trajectory, right? With the offices and how fast you guys are growing. And being able to start getting a taste, and just even from little taste, but from company culture and morale and that team energy and chemistry is critical. They also, to attract talent, they want to work under leaders that are influential, right? because leadership is simply the level and the magnitude of influence you carry, right? So if that's true, like John Maxwell talks about, then it becomes very influential. And we've had a couple people on the team that have joined in the last month that have left jobs where they're making 20, 30K or more with a base salary to come here, and they've never been this happy. And that's crazy to me because this is still new stuff in certain aspects, but it's showing us from the content and doing these types of things and being vulnerable and being able to talk about it. And the same work we're doing, once you start doing it a little bit, it gets addicting. You want to share it with the world. What I was going to say is, what does it actually look like strategically? Like, what would the business need to do? Are you with the direction that you guys are headed, right? And I don't know this information. Is it signing and going after like some big dogs? Is it going after some of like the largest contracts in the country in North America? Or is it going after, no, we're playing the quantity play and we have paid ads to push it. We have this sales, engine. Or is it strategic part? Like, does something excite you or potentially land? Obviously we don't know.
So first and foremost, just we talk a lot of abstract here. I think some key items here. All right. Process. As any company, for everything you do, there's got to be a process. It's got to be repeatable. All right. That way you can run efficiently.
Sounds so boring, but it is a necessity.
You talked about hiring. Okay. I just sat in on a coaching seminar on hiring, breaking down how do you hire someone from like, do you have the right key tasks and job description? Did you post it right? How are you taking time to efficiently screen resumes? Where are you it's a process. Okay. And so in anything we do in business, your ship has to have a process that's efficient. That's your expense side, okay? And then on your client side, you got to have one or two verticals that set you apart and bring in clients. So for us, we have a very good realtor referral partner or referral partnership in general. We get 80% of our business from our local partners. We are a property management company in residential property management that doesn't do sales. So we found a niche group that we love to support, our real estate professionals. We don't do sales, so they never have to worry about us stepping on their toes. And in return, when they look in their toolbox to support their clients, they're like, property manager? Yep, that's GoldenWest. All right, so that's just a glimpse of some of the things that we do that we have made us successful. And if you can do this over and over again and continue to expand in these certain key areas, you're going to hit those numbers. So that would be strategy too, as well as small tactics on how to do it. That would be my give back. I want to just go back to coaching for a second. If you don't have a coach, I didn't make up any of this stuff. Like I learned this by being with other people that are either a mentor, smarter than me, or a coach who knew my industry, knew what I needed to do. Okay, we're in a peer group, but they're doing this and works. But you got to seek that out, because beforehand I was trying to come up with these ideas on my own, and I got some decent ideas, but I didn't have them all. And it was that coaching, that mentorship, and that peer team that really helped make this possible. So for any young entrepreneur out there, that's got to be your first and foremost. You got to look for people that are going to help you on this journey.
Absolutely. Surround yourself around successful people, the most successful people you can. And then you'll start to feel an energy thing, and try to be around good, successful people. Most of them are. Be around the good ones, playing by the rules.
And you know what? How does it affect bleeding into the business as well? You brought up another great point, culture, company culture. Like, I am a Marine infantry officer. I'm used to yelling and screaming to get things done, and that is not work in the office. And I constantly have to learn how to be a better leader all the time. It's always a constant thing. But I also got smart enough to find a VP that is the total opposite of me. That man's has got ice water in his veins. He's a teddy bear. And so understanding what your weakness is and filling with strengths, especially on the company culture side, you want to foster an office environment where you work hard, but you care. You have values that the people you hire actually fit those values. All right. Not only do they have the skill, but they're the people we want to be around. The reason we are successful is because we work and we interact with people we would do business with, people that we like. It's the same concept. You have to find that in your business. If you say, well, we need someone to fill this position, so might as well go with that person, famous last words, you're not going to be happy. And if you as a leader aren't facilitating and fostering a positive culture, if you yourself aren't looking in the mirror and trying to do better every day, your team is going to call you out, and you're going to feel that pain. So that's the other part about this that really matters. Company culture, fostering that. People got to be there, be somewhere. They rather be somewhere they want to be.
I love it. I love that. And you're exactly right. For you and Roy, when you guys got started,
Teddy bear.
Teddy bear.
True. Love you, brother.
Right? And I am curious. You say like having that awareness of, okay, what we're good at, hiring for what we don't. That was a critical part for us, right? Having that awareness of, okay, we are good at these strengths. Chris and I looking at each other, but there were some big weaknesses that we knew were core components of getting the company to the next level. For us, the two were operations and systems, what you had mentioned earlier. Boring shit, but I read about it in book after book after book. And all of the most successful people I looked up to talked about it. And I'd read the books. I'm like, Jesus. My mind just didn't work that way, but I understood the necessity, and Chris did too. The other one was the financials, right? We had these goals and we were growing, but if we're going to have these goals and we want the company to grow, our financials, our spending, and everything needs to be tracked, and our financials simply need to be aligned, right? Our actions need to be aligned to get us to that plan. It's one thing to have the dream. The difference of people that are successful and continue to be successful is they create plans, and they know how to, and they know how to get there usually pretty effectively with the least amount of energy. For you, Roy, what were the biggest weaknesses? What did you guys see? You guys obviously were the personable, you could go to the events, you could make friends. I have no doubt you have the level of influence in the networks. What was the lack?
So Roy True, okay, he's been influential at GoldenWest. So a little bit of history. Roy interned with GoldenWest back at University of Arizona when we first started in like the early 2000s.
Did not know that. That's awesome.
So, and we call him the teddy bear. Again, the guy is like Teddy Ruxpin. He is this cute little bear. Everybody loves him. He's the nicest man on the planet by far. Okay. So his personality is infectious. And so when, fast forward a couple of years later, I believe he got his career started. He was like a regional manager. Enterprise was there for like 8 years. He moved out from Denver to San Diego, and I was looking for a sales manager. And he comes in, he said, I can do it. And I was like, Roy, I love you to death. This is a tough position. I really rely on it. You're like family. If I bring you on and you fail and I got to let you go, I'm going to feel terrible, And he's like, I can do it. Just trust me. Well, not only could he do it, he revolutionized the position, and he helped us put in processes that made it repeatable and things like that. So when the time came that we were looking to expand and I really needed a VP, a director of ops, a number two, he again raised his hand, and I'm like, man, you're a sales guy. This is operations. He's like, I can do it. So he'd earned enough trust to where it's like, you know what? He's the right guy. Let's go for it. And he's just such a better person when it comes to he can read individuals, he can feel their pain, and he can help them achieve tasks that we've laid out at a higher level in our own meetings when we talk about like, hey, we need to hit these key metrics. Okay, so when it comes to watching the operations go, he's able to get in there with our team and help them understand the why, and then he's able to help them achieve those goals. And when we have client issues, all right, he's available to hear their pain, and he's able to help them, that client, to feel like we're going to fix it. And we do. And so it's been really successful. Now, what have been some of our weaknesses? Well, I have a sales background. He has a sales background. Okay. So we're both transitioned into roles that aren't sales anymore, right?
Yep.
So we had to take the time to learn and read. And you talked about this earlier, and I want to hit on it, reading. We had to read and figure out how we were going to learn to be better at our new roles.
Yeah.
Okay. So, because we talked about weakness, right? And an obstacle, you can hire for it or you can learn about it. So we took the task of learning. Now we're lucky enough and fortunate enough to get to that size where we can start to hire for certain spots. But it was the weaknesses that we had, learning how we were going to fill those positions when we didn't have a lot of our own experience with them. So that was a key weakness. That's how we went about it. And back to reading. And I know you know this. I mean, what's on your coffee table right now? What are you reading? I'm not going to tell you, everybody, you got to read 10 books a week. But you got to be reading something other than your phone. You have to do that, okay? It doesn't even have to be in your industry, but if you're having trouble reading, start with fiction. get your reading game down, and then switch over to, something maybe inspirational, and then work in some industry-related or entrepreneur-related things so that you're absorbing information from people who they have a bestseller book. You might want to you might want to read some of that stuff. It will help your game. It's just increasing your game so you are better.
Yep. Exactly.
What do you think about reading? I mean,
and leave any comments below too. Just any of the best books anyone's reading, because you can Google, right? You can Google the top 25 self-development books or like business books, and almost always those lists are going to be pretty accurate with a lot of the same, like Napoleon Hill and Robert Greene, to like the foundational things that I think help with the mindset. Which look into those lists and read a little summary to see kind of where you're at, because sometimes not every book makes
just what Conor
sense.
said. Put your favorite entrepreneurial books in the comments, because I want to go and get more. But I'm a knuckle dragger. I color with crayons, but reading is so important. It's so important.
Yeah.
I can only scroll through Instagram so much before I'm like, all right, this isn't working.
Yeah.
It's not getting my business any better.
It is. And it's something that I've struggled with for a long time.
Right.
Consistently, though, the one thing that's worked for me, and it's been this year, I've been more consistent reading on a daily basis, and it's doing it before bed and matching it with journaling, but saying it with a minimum. So I have to read a minimum of 1 page. So if I do a minimum of 1 page, even if I do, sometimes I do. Like it is only
Sometimes
1 page. That's a minimum.
Yeah.
Now sometimes I'll read a chapter or two. But then doing a minimum of 5 minutes of journaling. Right. It's kind of like meditation. It's not like when you sit down the first time and you get that session and you're like, oh damn, I'm enlightened. Hell no. You're like, I don't know if I did it right. I don't feel any different. Like you think it's like taking a shot of tequila and then like 10 minutes later I feel a little different. No, you don't. But it's the prolonged and repetitive tasks that I think on the outside look boring. And like if you would have told me what was required, like the job description, if you broke down what you and me do on a day-to-day basis, I don't know if I would have thought it would be as appealing. But then to experience the lifestyle, there's a reason why we can create time in our weekly schedules to create content. And there's a reason why you and me understand the power of creating content and not consuming it, right? If we can focus more of our attention on creating it, we create more of a ripple effect, right? And you and me aren't standing here saying we're successful. We found maybe a degree of it, and you're on here today because you're on my radar. You're someone I look up to. And there's a lot of people throughout the Midwest, anyone outside of San Diego, there's a lot of people in the world that tune in. You have such a great way of communicating. You're humble, you're down to earth. You're one of the rare breeds from Orange County, man. I have a couple friends from OC, nothing against it, but where I grew up in the Midwest, there's just gonna be like a tone like, oh, you grew up around that, you had the silver spoon, and then like that goes. And the thing is I would have thought you could have grown up, and we went to high school together. So I love that. What is one of the most uncommon things you've learned from your parents, regardless of age? That's really something you're gonna take away.
I love this question, and if you don't mind if I just diverge for a second, because my mother she's a wonderful woman, and I just want to talk about her real quick because she flew in town from Cabo, where she lives because she retired, to stay with me for a couple.
These guys
days.
Live such a cool life. This is what a lot of us are working hard to live.
So mom, okay, Karen, okay, so she was the original executive, only woman back in the late 80s and 90s at big companies like Computer Associates, which is like the major competitor of Oracle at that time. So I have a picture, or she had a picture on her dresser in her room of herself at club or at their corporate retreat in Switzerland. She's wearing a white dress on a stage with like 20 other men in a tuxedo. And
she's the only girl.
She's the only woman.
The only female, yeah.
Okay. And that's the highlight of that company's year is that event and her getting an award. And then fast forward, she has started and sold 3 other mid-sized tech firms, and every one of them are women-driven, women at the top. My mom is one of my heroes, one of the smartest, most intelligent, emotionally controlled, able to get things done people out there. But what was most interesting is when she retired, this was the most fascinating thing I ever said. There was a retirement party for her put on by the owner of the company that bought her company. And there were, tons of people in attendance. And there were women from other companies that she used to work with, people who used to work with her, affiliates, and they went around the room at one point, women talking about how Karen was a trailblazer, how if it wasn't for her, that they wouldn't be where they are, how much she impacted their careers. And it was a room, I mean, there's like at least 50 women speaking from all industries. And I just thought, I was a young kid. I was just like, that's you, Mom? That's you? And it meant so much to me later on when I actually had a company and I thought, this person had this much impact, that much impact on other people. And it's amazing, especially in the world we live in today. And it's totally different than it was back then. That's a true trailblazer. To be the only woman in a boardroom, I don't know how she got there. She had to fight her way inch by inch to get there. And so later on, now having a company, okay, which predominant people working my company are females, but understanding that if I do well, I can impact that many people. I hope that I'm fortunate enough that when I hang it up, okay, that I have one or two people saying, you impacted my career this way. You impacted how I do business that way. And that has been one of the most inspirational two things. That picture and then her retirement where those people came out and said all that about her. That's been one of the most influential things for me. And as again, that's my goal. That is my goal walking off when I go into the sunset. That's how I hope to be one day.
Wow. I can just feel the energy and I see it in the passion and the conviction that you have when you talk about her. And that's always been true and consistent whenever we've talked about your mother. And I know how much she's had a role in your life. And that's like hitting the lottery to have, a mother like that and an influence like that.
I wish she would talk more like you and I. You can't get me to stop. But I'm like, Mom, you have a Facebook, you have an Instagram. Why don't you give lessons? Why don't you coach? Why don't you mentor? Why don't you do any of that? And she's like, well, I'm enjoying retirement. I'm living a couple right. Yeah,
she's living a good life.
I'm flying to Hawaii tomorrow.
She created her life. That's the thing is like, that's what I respect so much is, where I was raised and it's kind of the rich dad, poor dad kind of thing is like you had this almost negative taste in your mouth with people that were like successful. And then there's like the ultra wealthy, right? And there's all these levels and there's always going to be someone above. Now, realizing that I just have a curiosity. I just want to meet him. I know I deserve to. And somehow you and me will have that, right? And I can't wait to give it to the loved ones and the people that allowed us to get here. Right. And just looking at it like, damn, those people worked harder than most people and they created value. Unlike most people, they're impacting more lives than anyone else.
Absolutely. And we talk about that all the time. Like bottom line, bottom dollar is fine, but impact it's so much more meaningful. And I get it. Without a bottom line, it's tough to be able to look at things like making an impact on others. But the truth is, every day, whether you own a Fortune 500 company or you own, a small little mom and pop, like you can have a positive impact on the 3 people that work for you or the 10 customers that you serve. And that you can still make money doing it.
Yeah. 50 years from today, Jayson, what legacy do you want your mother to be remembered for and by?
Well, I hope that the people that spoke at that event and my grandchildren and everybody who knew her, and I'm 50 years today, I wouldn't be surprised if Karen is still kicking. I mean, that woman is amazing. But, I want the people to say, hey, I remember how I got my start. Or I remember my mom told me she got her start by doing this, by working for Karen Mills, something along those lines. But she's had such an impact on my life and so many others that I think that there will be people that will remember her long after she has decided to go to the next level.
Oh my gosh, we got to get Karen. Even if it means we have to fly to her somewhere, we'll get an interview someday. There's nothing wrong with flying
to her somewhere. She only lives in beach ocean communities, so there's nothing wrong with flying to her for sure. You're right. She's the kind of person that she can have a huge impact on that next level. Not just female entrepreneur, any entrepreneur. The lessons she's learned. I think the biggest takeaway, not to plug her being on your show because she would love it, but her ability she has this thing about her emotional control is so good. She can
really
size
does.
up a situation and she can be whatever she needs to be to make that situation work. And the fact that she can do that in a Fortune 500 company or in a mid-sized tech firm and it's just amazing. It's amazing to watch.
She's a rare breed because I've had a few conversations with her and I value quality communication, right? That's a big part of the social seller. It goes way beyond sales. It's the conversations we're having today. It's the people that influence us. How do we create influence? How do we share it? How do we impact other lives and bring others up? And she has a spiritual sense of, she just is so present. And what I've gathered just in those conversations, she makes you feel like there's no one else around and she's listening. She can match your energy. She matches like, it makes it seem very easy, like it was your best friend's mom growing up to talk to.
Right.
And I know it's a lot of work because I've learned it from self-development, like spirituality, that it's just a lot of that work, but she knows how to communicate like that. And I think the coolest part is that's not very common, especially when you work in like that cutthroat corporate environment. Absolutely. When you're the only female around all this testosterone that's literally intimidating. Like I'd be intimidating as hell. Like I'd be intimidated by that and knowing what that looked like, but for her to take a stand and then for her to be this nice, and she was still kind of like I don't want to say breaking the rules, but she was defining these new rules that weren't set yet. Absolutely. That takes a rare breed in a person that brings that conviction. Absolutely. And no, this is the way the future is going to be.
And I'm glad we could take a couple minutes just to I always want to acknowledge her, but I'm glad that you allow us to take a couple minutes on the show and acknowledge her, because that's how great, how much impact she's had on me. And yeah, one day her being on the show will be great.
The beauty here is there's value, right? The value is through teaching, right?
Right.
And in sales, we talk about it. Facts tell, stories sell.
Right.
And when we can share these stories, you're an incredible storyteller. That's why I was so excited for today. Absolutely. I know today's Friday and we're going into a weekend. That's wild because last weekend was wild. It sounds like San Diego is a fun place, but
San Diego is a great place. I'll tell you what though, having an office in Phoenix, Scottsdale area, and Vegas, I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to experience both. And I got to tell you, it's 110 out there right now, but Scottsdale is an amazing place. Phoenix is an amazing city. There's so much to do, so many great eateries. And again, the business opportunities there have been so good. Same with Las Vegas, Nevada. I can't tell you how much they've rebounded from the crash in 2008, how much infrastructure is going in there, how many jobs are returning. Another great place to invest, and it's a great place to have a business.
And I'm looking to invest in a lot of those states here soon.
You should, yeah.
Thank you so much, Jayson. How can people get in contact, not only with you, get in touch with you or Roy, or learn more about GoldenWest? Now, I know you guys are growing, and I know you guys have offices, and you're in all these different states. Right. And I know it's hard. I don't want to say hard to get a job, but it's got to be the right fit. It's got to be the right individuals. Absolutely. In the next year, are those opportunities opening up?
They're 100% there. We are so lucky to be growing and doing so well. Again, on the web, GoldenWestManagement.com is where you can find us. On social media at GWMPM.com. Anything I can do to help and share with anybody else in the community, especially entrepreneurs, especially those with Marine Corps or military backgrounds. I've been through that long road, and I can definitely give you some pointers that might help you. Anything I can do to help, that would be great. Thank you so much for having me on. It was exciting, and I really appreciate being here.
This is Jayson Yoss, the captain in the Marine.
Yeah, captain in the Marine Corps, yeah.
Millionaire business owner and real estate investor, someone to give value, give love back. Thank you so much for tuning in every Tuesday, 9 a.m. This was a good one. Good job, man. This is awesome.